Alright, so welcome to class today. Welcome to the live streaming. Glad you could enter, Crystal. Love the fishes. We'll begin in a couple more minutes, but as of right now, we're just gonna wait 2 seconds to see who else pops up. Glad to have everyone here. Welcome, Cade. I'm glad you could join us for the live stream tonight. We are beginning on Xinyang, the town of Xinyang, as our 33rd wonder. We are welcome to the live stream 5B1. I'm glad you could join us tonight. Just doing one or two more editing things on the side here. Alright, good. So, welcome to the live stream, everybody. I'm going to put up the first little bit of reading that we can start with. So while we're waiting for more people, for one more minute, you can go ahead and read on ahead if you can. This is on the city of Shenyang in China. And once the 60 minutes starts, we will begin. Let's see. How's everyone's day today? I had a lovely dinner. I guess you guys had a lovely breakfast. Welcome to the live stream plus. I'm glad you can make it today. And we will be beginning our 70 Wonders live stream. Welcome Victor747 to the live stream. We are starting on our 33rd wonder of China, Xinyang. Let's start from the quote above. Welcome Lee 9EF to the live stream. Glad you could join us tonight. In the end, the barbarians invite the civilized people into their palaces, and the civilized open their schools to the barbarians. Quote cited to describe the interaction between non-Chinese conquerors and Chinese cities such as Xinyang. Welcome back, Crystal, and welcome everyone else to the live stream. Hello, Jane. I'm glad you could join tonight. We are on Xinyang, our last city in the book. And located about 750 kilometers northeast of Beijing, Xinyang is the capital and central city of Liaoning province and the largest urban region in the territory, at one time called Manchuria. With its prosperous industrial city, whose population exceeds 7 million, lies more than a millennia of Chinese urban past. The city's period of greatness flourish was in the early 17th century. Welcome Amelia77. Lee, we are looking at the city of Xinyang. So, welcome Jane's Ling to the live stream. I'm going to post the 33rd wonder of China. What city we're looking at right now is Xinyang, everybody. Within this, let's see, 17th century records trace the history of Xinyang to the prefectural capital, Shenju, established by the Boha Kingdom of Polyglot North and Northeast Asian population in the late 7th century. The archaeological record traces Greater Xinyang's history several thousand years earlier, when the Neolithic Hongsha culture spread across Liaoning and into eastern Mongolia. I am not in China, and I'm glad you could join us tonight, Precious. I am in the United States, and right now we are reading a section in the book called The 70 Wonders of China on the city of Xinyang in the province of Manchuria. It is likely that the last centuries the Han had a commandery in the Han River, formal name of the river Shen, for which the city is named. The city of Shenzhou fell into the Content dynasty Lao, and then in the Jurchen dynasty Jin, and subsequently to the Mongols, largely a military post and a trading center during those periods. It is believed that the Xinjiao have been walled since Lao times. Each group and the subsequent Ming dynasty, which conquered the Mongols in 1368, had repaired city walls and built walls of their own. Thank you for the donation. Welcome back, Crystal. Glad you could join us tonight again. If the connection's bad, I apologize right now, but that's what happens when the live stream is coming from the United States to China. Hello, Precious. The most important period in Shenyang's history began in 1625, when so this book is called The 70 Wonders of China, and it is about the different landmarks of Chinese culture and history. It goes through things like geography, cities, monuments, philosophy, religion, wildlife, and so forth. This is the 33rd wonder, the Xinyang, the city. When the Manchu leader Nukche moved his capital there, it was his fifth and last capital. The move signaled the intent of the Manchus to complete an empire in the North and East Asian area. Just a year later, Nanchi died. He was succeeded by his son, Huang Taiji. In 1634, the city name was changed to Singjing, the second syllable, one that had been used in China, Korea, and Japan for more than 1,000 years to designate a capital. From Xinjiang, the Manchus overthrew the Ming in 1644, whereupon they transferred the capital to the power of Beijing. Welcome, Mew Mew, to the live stream. I'm glad you could join us tonight. Xinjiang, later known as Xinyang, and its Mukden, is thus associated primarily with a 20-year period and one ruler, for the fact that most of the construction was left to the Hong Taijing. Even after the establishment of the Qing dynasty in Beijing, Xinyang retained considerable. Welcome back, Lee9EF, to the live stream. Glad you could stay with us tonight. Let's going on to the next page. Let's physically turn it, and also go right there. Able prestige as the capital of the dynastic founders. 3 major and several minor Manchu ancestral tombs are in the vicinity, and the treasures and regality of royal Manchu household are still kept at the Shenyang Palace. Welcome, ADF, to the live stream. I'm glad you could join us tonight. The Manchu palaces at Xinyang are sometimes considered a miniature Forbidden City. Welcome RE1BC. I have not been to China before, Precious, and I'm probably planning on going to China in the near future, as in a year or two later. The approximate 70 buildings of the Manchu Palace divide into three parallel north-south sets. At the center are four buildings. Great Qing Gate is the entry. There, one is told Chinese, Manchu, Mongolian, Uyghur, and Tibetan to dismount. Behind are three halls, each with its own front courtyard. First is Eminent Administration Hall, where Hong Taiji met foreign ambassadors, handled affairs of state, and held court. Next is Phoenix Tower, for a long time the tallest building in Shenyang. On exhibit today is a chair with antlers of a deer killed by Hong Taiji, where he sat at banquets. Last is the building complex that shared its name with a residential compound of the Forbidden City, Qingyinggong, or Pure Tranquility Palace. Welcome to the live stream plus. I'm glad you could come back with us tonight. It was the living quarters of the emperor and empresses. In a back hall to the west, the emperor sacrificed his dynastic ancestors. He concubines lived in the surrounding apartments. It was probably for this reason that the back courtyard ... Oop. So, if any of you have any comments about the city of Xinjiang, go ahead and state them below in the comment section. We will keep reading in said book, and then and go from there. Was only accessible through the Phoenix Tower. This area and the building group to the east, however, are unique and a configuration that can be called Manchu. The octagonal Great Administration Hall, like the Eminent Administration Hall for imperial audiences, is a single focal point. Like 8 of the small squash halls in front, its size symbolized the unification of 8 tribes by Nurchke in the creation of the Manchu state. The halls closest to the octagonal hall were for the commanders of the left and right wings of the banners. The narrow building behind Great Administration Hall was a treasury. Welcome 123. If you have any questions in the comments. So, I have not been to China. I am also very bad at reading Chinese characters. But we are exploring the city of Xinjiang. Not entirely. The western part of the imperial Xinjiang was not constructed until the 18th century during the reign of the Hulang Emperor. Its focus is the multi-story Imperial Library, built to house one of the race sets of Saku Koshu, an imperial complication of more than 3,400 writings. Other examples of Imperial Manchu architecture in Xinjiang include the tombs of the Nurkai and Hong Taiji. Already in 1598, Nukai had begun construction of an ancestral burial ground 125 kilometers to the east of Xinbing. His own tomb, Wu Ling shared with his wife, was begun in 1629 and completed in 1651. The tomb of Hong Taiji and his wife was begun in 1643. Both have long approaches, triple entry gates, pavilions, and offering halls that followed the pattern of the 13 Ming tombs near Beijing, setting a precedent for Qing imperial tombs east and west of Beijing. Fuling and Xiaoling had curved walls, enclosed mounts at the back ends. Xinjiang was the site of important battles during the Russo-Japanese War in 1904 to 1905. The Mukden Incident of 1931 signaled the beginning of the Japanese conquest of Manchuria and eventual establishment of the puppet regime of Manchukuo. From 1946 to 1948, Xinjiang was in the hands of the Kuomintang, or nationalists. Today, Xinjiang is a major Chinese city, but its non-Chinese heritage, primarily Manchu, is preserved at the city center. Welcome A64. Welcome apostrophe comma dot to the live stream. This book is called The 70 Wonders of China. We are on the city of Xinjiang. And before we move forward, this is the last section on the cities in this book. So let's look at a couple pictures. Right here is the exterior of the Imperial Palace in Xinjiang. Let's see. Yeah, no, I probably should come to China, and I probably will in the future. Right here is the Phoenix Tower in the Imperial Palace of Xinjiang. And on our first page right here is a map of the known world from the Qing dynasty, showing the Manchu version of the Chinese Empire. Welcome Moonlight and welcome Alex Hong Zhao to the live stream. We have just covered the last city in this book, and we are moving forward to the section on monuments and buildings. So, together, let us proceed. China's monuments were built with a purpose. Some, like Labring Monastery in Gansu Province in the west of the country, and the Leisheng Great Buddha in Sichuan Province, had a religious purpose. Elsewhere in Sichuan, and the Daju carvings, with their Buddhist motifs, form part of the landscape as they stretch along cliff faces, in one place covering the entire side of a deep valley. Other great monuments, some dealt with the previous section of this book, embodied a political statement such as the Forbidden City in Beijing, symbolizing the power and divine majesty of the emperors. Overlooking La Sha in Potala Palace, one of the great monuments of Tibet, named after the mythical Indian home of the Buddhist deity, Avalokiteshvara. Tashavara was designated to show the unity of Tibet under the Dalai Lama, while also evoking the roots of Buddhism, links with the Mongols, and the decorative arts of China. Welcome to the live stream Y. I'm glad you could join us. Two of the finest and most celebrated of monuments were to honor the dead and ensue their well-being in the afterlife. The tomb of the first emperor, Qing, outside Xi'an, contains the breathtaking terracotta warriors, arrayed in ranks to guard their master in the netherworld. Excavations have already taken place, are impressive enough, but there are other tombs in the area which may yield equally great treasures. Outside Beijing, the tombs of 13 of the 16 Ming emperors stand in a sheltered valley, showing the Chinese belief in the spirit world beyond human life and the link between earth and the heavens, the spirit road leading to the ... Welcome Arvel, welcome AJ Lee, and hope you guys enjoy the live stream tonight. Tombs is flanked by stone carvings of animals designed to depict a great peaceful empire watched over by officials waiting to serve the emperor. Some major monuments. Welcome Nana to the live stream. I'm glad you could join us tonight. Were more strictly practical. And there is also a myriad smaller architectural inheritances from the past in the form of classic Chinese houses and temples, following similar patterns and constituting a distinct theme running through history. The most celebrated of all monuments, the Great Wall, more a collective of walls than a single project, was designed to keep out northern nomadic tribes. Militarily, it was not tremendously effective. Both the Mongols and the Manchus penetrated it to take Beijing and found dynasties. More recently, the story that it is the only human construction seen from space has been exploded by a Chinese astronaut, but it remains probably the main symbol of China, giving its name to everything from a vineyard to a motor car company, and is seen by the Chinese as a standing for their nation's greatness. In the late 18th century, Lord McIntyre, lord of an abortive British mission sent to establish relations with the Chinese Empire, declared it the most stupendous work of human hands. 2 centuries later, after walking along a stretch of it, Richard Nixon optioned, "This is a great wall and had to be built by great people." The Grand Canal, which McIntyre called the greatest and most ancient of its kind, carried food to the imperial capital, running through eastern China. It is part of the longer network of canals which bear witness to Chinese prowess in this form of engineering, using some earlier stretches of waterway and flowing in part over canalized river. The main section was built by some 5 million laborers at the end of the 6th and beginning of the 7th centuries. The 1,000-kilometer stretch from the Yellow River to the port of Tianjin was a virtual unifying link to the centuries. Then water transport played a key role in China's economy, and in the movement of troops and people. Its decline in the 19th century symbolized the decline of the empire. Many of today's new monuments are also highly practical, devoted to boosting the economy through constructions of huge dams, highways, high-speed train links, airports, and forests of tower blocks in cities across the nation. Some of these carry concerns for the environment, which they have been continuing preoccupation of China's headlong development, not a problem of the builders of the Great Wall, the Great Canal, or the imperial tombs had to take into the account. Welcome, Chris, to the live stream. I love the unicorn in your name. It's quite awesome. So before we move on to the 34th wonder of China, here is a picture of the Yellow Hat Monastery complex during the Tibetan New Year festival. On the next page, we have at the very bottom the upper floor of the Taiju Hongpo Monastery near Xingxi, another monument in Tibet. So let's move forward to the next page. Next wonder of China, the 34th wonder of China, is called domestic and religious architecture. So let's begin with the quote at the top of the page. Those who restored the temples always followed the original plan. Generally, this is very similar and resembles in many ways that of a secular residence. We find the same series of rectangular courtyards running from north to south with the principal edifice in the center and the lesser buildings at the side. Juliette Berndon, Peking, 1920. Welcome, Lyris, to the live stream. I love the four-leaf clover and electric guitar and your name tag. Since the Chinese have relied upon timber, suspectively to fire and natural rotting, as the main structural component of buildings since at least 6000 BC. Reconstructing the buildings of the past is difficult. A further difficulty in reconstruction has been a tendency to rebuild because of the frequent destruction of timber frame buildings. In contrast with Japan, where the maintenance and repair of sacred structures means that Tang Dynasty style buildings have survived without alteration to plain or form for some 1500 years in China. It was the site that was sacred, not the structure. So many temples, founded nearly 2,000 years ago, may have been rebuilt many times, reflecting changes in architectural styles. The remains of the foundations of buildings, with evident post holes, reveals the use of upright timber columns from the Neolithic period through the Han Dynasty. During the Han, various other pieces of evidence for the shape of the timber structure enable historians to reconstruct vanished forms. These include the stone gate towers, built in imitation of timber, and tile constructions which stand in front of some Han tombs. The ceramic tomb bricks which line some Han tombs, showing buildings, gardens, and towers, and the ceramic models of houses, farms, and towers, which were placed in tombs, together with the ceramic models of people and animals. The new evidence reveals three major areas in buildings: the foundation, the pillar structure, and the roof. The last two linked by an increasingly complex bracketing structure set above the columns to support the eaves and the roof. Foundations, whether of pounded earth or stone, raised by the building above the ground for practical reasons, preventing rising damp, and indicated ... Welcome to the live stream. I'm glad you could join us tonight. We are on the monuments and buildings, domestic and religious architecture, the 34th wonder of China. Status: for the higher the foundation, the more significant the building. Timber columns, often set in stone pillar bases, frame the building, while the roof, usually covered with rows of symmetrical or semi-symmetrical tiles running from the ridge down the eaves, was supported in a series of W-shaped brackets, which during the Han and through the Tang dynasties stood on top of the upright columns. Welcome Woodrow and welcome Fish Oil to the live stream. I'm glad you both could make it tonight, and I hope you guys enjoy. The roof ridges were often decorated with symmetric animals, and the eave tiles finished with circular end tiles. Lattice windows with simple diamond lusage patterns anticipate a major area of decoration in later times. And thank you for the smiley face, and thank you, Woodrow. Through some stone and brick pagodas survive from the Tang dynasty, the most significant early surviving buildings are the two temple halls, discovered in the Buddhist center of the Wutai Sha in Shaanxi province. The eastern hall of Fugou Temple, built in 857, was rediscovered in 1937 by China's foremost architectural historian Ling Xing, and the small hall of the tiny Nanchang Temple, built in 782, was rediscovered in the early 1950s and restored quite sensitively with reference to contemporary wall paintings from Donghong. The construction of the two Tang halls was similar. Timber columns set in plain stone bases on the high brick platform supported the eaves with bracketing set on top of the columns and intercolumnar brackets in the form of inverted verses. The bracketing of the Fenggang Hall is complex, with 4 tiers of cavaliers to support the considerable eaves projection. The tiled roofs have incurved owl's tails at each end of the ridge. Yes, Chinese building. This is specifically domestic and religious architecture. By the Tang Temple, complexes had already developed their characteristic layout in a series of rectangular courtyards, ideally oriented north-south, with the main halls on the center axis facing south. Lesser buildings stood to the east and west of the courtyards. Behind the main halls At the greatest distance from the main gate were the private apartments of the monks. This principle of building courtyards in a series sometimes ... welcome Sabrina Hahn and welcome other person to the live stream. I'm glad you both could join us tonight. We are looking at domestic and religious architecture, the 34th wonder of China. Welcome, Rose. Hope you enjoy domestic and religious architecture, the 34th wonder of China. With several axes, but the main building on the central axis was also formed in palaces and most private inmate areas farthest from the main gate. The residential part of the Forbidden City is at the northernmost end of the complex, in domestic buildings, which might consist of a single courtyard rather than a series of courtyards in a temple complex. A guest could measure his intimacy with the residents by how far into the courtyard he was allowed. Tradesmen were seen at the gate, but family friends might have entertained in the main northernmost hall. Yeah, Chinese architecture is definitely great and actually is very unique. I actually saw a little clip about 2 weeks ago that was evaluating the structural integrity of the imperial city, Forbidden City within Beijing, and they put a mock imperial city pagoda under an earthquake test, of which it withstood a 7.0 earthquake very easily compared to a normal building. I think a lot of these buildings that were built during the imperial period have a lot of structural integrity compared to some modern buildings. The development of architectural, let's see. Yes, the temple buildings are very traditional. The development of architectural styles throughout the succeeding dynasties saw considerable progress both in bracketing and in roof decoration. The great halls of the Forbidden City have long fringes of bracketing, no longer restricted to the tops of the columns, and instead of the simple owl's tails and roof ridges have glazed, tile-gapping dragon heads at either end, as well as many little ceramic animal figures running. Welcome, Xiaojing LG. Love the tongue face, and have a good time. We are reading on domestic and religious architecture. These, apart from their decorative function, were intended to protect dragons. Dragons in China are associated with water and in buildings consistently threatened by fire. Their watery associations were protective. Much building magic involved protection. Circular-ended tiles were impressed with snarling lion faces to frighten evil spirits, and spirit walls or screens were built to oppose the main gates or temples, or inside the gate of private dwellings to keep out evil spirits who were believed to be able to fly only in straight lines and thus unable to negate barriers. Hello. I hope you enjoy the reading tonight. Stipulatory regulations restricted the decoration of private homes. In Beijing, only temples could have glazed tile roofs. Houses had to have gray. Welcome back. Hello, Jane. I'm glad you could join us. Also forbidden painted ceilings. Although such rules were often ignored, it was the roof style and decoration of temples that showed the greatest regional ... So, we are in the domestic and religious architecture section, the 34 Wonder of China. And let's move forward. Variation. For their plan remained fairly consistent throughout China. In Fujian province, temple roofs might soar in a series of sharp triangular gables. Welcome, Yao ZHU. I'm glad you could join us tonight. All adorned with ceramic figures of gods and heroes. In Guangdong province, entire operic scenes in glazed ceramics fight their way across roofs, while in Sichuan they are decorated with gray tile ornaments. Welcome Norman Wong to the live stream. Glad you could join us tonight. Domestic architecture used to show the most dramatic regional variation. Though all based in the courtyard plan, courtyards in northern China were open to make the most of slanting winter sun, while southern courtyards were almost entirely roofed over to avoid hot summer sun in high rainfall. Black and white, half-timbered buildings were characteristic of Sichuan, and gable end walls in steeped or arched cat's back forms were seen across southern central China. In Jing'an area, house garden complexes. So, you could probably find this book on sites like Amazon. I will basically, once I'm done reading this section, I will basically show the front so that you can... Actually, I'm going to type down the title right in the front real quick. So that you guys can go back and reference the book. So, that's the book's title and author. So you can look it up on Amazon and probably find a copy of it. In the Jingyang area, house garden complexes in Suzhou and Yangzhou had lattice windows, like houses across China, but their decoration was more delicate and imaginative than elsewhere. In northern Fengzhou, houses had heavily roofed, uplifted at the eaves, whilst in southern Fujian, the eaves uplift was increasingly exaggerated. Unfortunately, the increasing wealth of peasant families has seen the construction of new homes throughout the countryside whose electric borrowings of moon gates, additional stories, Disney fairy palace roofs, and gold bamboo roof vinyls have largely destroyed the sense of local diversity, which was so characteristic of traditional domestic architecture. Welcome back, Yao ZHU. I'm glad you could join us. We have just gone through the section on religious and domestic architecture. And let's take a look at some photos real quick. Right here is the Wangfeng Pagoda near Yangzhou, built in 1582. And this is an illustration showing how trigonometry measures the height of a pagoda. Just over here at the bottom are temple houses, markets, and gardens in the city wall of Nanjing. Yep, Yangzhou. In the middle of the page, right here, is an elevation of timber-framed bits from the Fenggong Temple on Wangtai Shang. There are owl tails at each of the ridges. Just over here is detail of bracketing. And the bracketing is actually pretty cool to look at in real life. And actually, the bracketing also makes a building really good against earthquakes. And at the very bottom is a model of a clay tomb from the Han Dynasty, found in the Hubei province. Alright. So, yeah, each region traditionally has different building styles for various reasons. This book illustrates some of the differences in building style, but mostly it looks at building styles in southern China in this section, around Nanjing. We have... Oh, that's pretty good. If you would like to say anything in the comments, Woodrow, feel free to do so. Our next section we're going to move into is on the tomb of the first emperor, so... That's actually pretty cool too, Woodrow. So, we're going to read into the tomb of the first emperor. And the quote at the top says, "We are witnessing one of the most spectacular excavations of this century." Audrey Topping, 1978. In 1978, when Audrey Topping of National Geographic visited the Terracotta Army sites for the first time, confronted with the sight of thousands of life-size, 2,200-year-old pottery warriors, she stood in the rain and was moved almost to tears. But in fact, the Terracotta Army is only a small part of the 180 burial pits of the Emperor Qing Shangdai Mausoleum. So far, within the area of 56.25 kilometers, archaeologists have found millions of square meters of palace ruins, hundreds of accessory tombs and burial pits, unearthed thousands of terracotta warriors and horses, dozens of pottery acrobat figures, bronze birds, and stone armors, and 2 sets of bronze chariots, as well as a large number of other rare artifacts. Welcome to the live stream, O&P, and I hope you both enjoy our broadcast tonight. All these treasures were unknown for thousands of years until the archaeologists trolls cleared the soil covering them. It was no surprise that Peter Hessler wrote, "There's so much history here that it literally rises out of the ground." Emperor Qing Di, the first emperor of China, conquered the other 6 states after 10 years of war, and in 221 BC founded the first unified feudal empire in Chinese history. He promulgated a uniform code of law and standardized currency, weights, and measurements. Welcome, Jamie UK. I'm glad you could join us tonight for the live stream. Welcome, both of you, to the live stream. This is the tomb of the first emperor. And right now we are on a history section. He also built a vast network of roads radiating from the Qing capital, Xianyang, and joined up the previous separate defensive walls of states into the Great Wall. For his personal glorification, besides building a number of elaborate palaces near his capital, Emperor Qing Di also built an underground palace for his afterlife. Qing Di's mausoleum lies 35 kilometers east of the city of Xi'an, Shanxi province. The tomb was 38 years in the making, having been begun only 1 year after his coronation. There are several reasons why the emperor chose Lishang Mountain as his burial place. The geomagnetic omens for this area were ideal, with mountains in the south and the Wei River in the north. Also, the tombs of Qing Di's ancestors were located here. The emperor's tomb, mount now 76 meters in height and 1250 meters in perimeter, was originally enclosed by rectangular inner and outer walls, respectively 4 and 6 kilometers in perimeter. We get a few clues from written records about the underground palace of the tomb, although ... Welcome 533 to the live stream. We are on the tomb of the first emperor. I'm glad you could join us tonight. And tonight is mostly Chinese traditional architecture, and this is basically going to examine the tomb of the first emperor. So, let's see. Not sure how far we will get into the 35th wonder of the 70 wonders, but we can try. The entire mausoleum remains to be explored and excavated. According to Sima Qian, who wrote the records of the grand historian some 100 years after the emperor's death, the ceiling of the tomb chamber is the model of the heavens, and its floor a topographical map of the empire with circulating Mercury to represent the waters of earth. Jewels and other treasures buried within are guarded by crossbows triggered to release arrows at any intruder, and the workmen who installed the finishing touches were buried alive to ensure that the secret of the entryway died with them. While we are uncertain about the truth of the description, a geophysical survey in the 1980s proved that there was an area of 12,000 square meters of unnatural concentrations of mercury in the area under the tumulus. Welcome to the live stream. I'm glad you could join us tonight. During the following 2,200 years, although these were many legends about the mausoleum, the truth was not revealed until this extraordinary discovery of the terracotta army. In March 1974, local villagers unearthed a number of fragments of terracotta warriors and horses. When they dug a well in a field 1.5 kilometers east of the mausoleum, the area now called Pit 1, after the discovery of Pit 1, Pits 2 and 3 were found in May and June 1976, respectively. Excavations show that all three pits of the life-size pottery figures were originally roofed over and lined with a framework of earth and wood, which collapsed long ago. All the pits were damaged, the first two burnt, possibly by rebel forces under General Xiangyong. As a result, most of the pottery figures were reduced to fragments. Welcome 916 to the live stream. I'm glad you could join us for the last 6 minutes while we explore the tomb of the first emperor. Pit 1 is 230 meters from east to west, 62 meters from north to south, 5 meters deep, and covers an area of 14,260 square meters. Rows of wooden corridors were covered with woven mats and earth up to ground level. The floors are packed with bricks, and both the corridors and earthen partition walls are roughly 3 meters wide. The terracotta army stands within these corridors. To date, archaeological excavations have brought up to light more than 1,000 pottery warriors and 24 pottery horses, but it is estimated that there were in fact about 6,000 terracotta warriors and horses buried in total. The serrated ranks of 1.8 meter tall warrior figures are divided into teams of 4, facing east. Wooden chariots with 4 horses were deployed between them. In front end of Pit 1, the 210 warriors carrying crossbows or bows formed the vanguard. Of the main formation. Immediately behind them are 38 columns in 11 groups facing east, which consist of infantrymen and charioteers. The two sides of formation are flanks, which face north and south respectively. On the west end of the pit, there are rear guards facing west. Most of the warriors in the main formation welcome Jet Amy Yung Er and welcome both to the live stream. We are in the last 4 minutes looking at the tomb of the first emperor. Welcome Sherry S. to the tomb of the first emperor. I'm glad you could join us tonight. And though the wooden parts of these weapons have long since disintegrated, the soldiers' fingers are still curved to grasp them. The bronze swords and spearheads were found at the figures' feet. These warriors escorted war chariots in the same manner that a modern infantry escorts tanks. Pit 2 is located 20 meters north of the east end of Pit 1. It is shaped like an inverted L, stretching 124 meters from east to west and 98 meters from north to south. Pit 2 is similar to Pit 1 in construction, but it contains an even greater variety of terracotta warriors. In addition to infantrymen and charioteers, there are also cavalrymen and archers. The cavalrymen are leading their saddled and bribed horses. The archers carry either longbows or crossbows. Standing and kneeling, archers manned the front lines, while the chariots occupied the right flank, and chariot stood on the left. In the center was a rectangular formation of inspected chariots and infantrymen. Pit 3 is the smallest of the three, only 520 square meters. In size contains 68 warriors and one chariot with 4 horses, and is thought to be the headquarters, commanding warriors of the first 2 pits. Welcome Tony, China, to the last couple minutes of our live stream. Glad you could join us tonight. Sadly, we do not have enough time to finish the tomb of the first emperor, but not to worry, we will continue with the 35th wonder of the 30 wonders of China tomorrow. And here are some pictures of the terracotta warriors, such as this guy and his horse, and even more impressive, the main army of terracotta warriors right here. Right here is a picture of the tomb of the first emperor with the 3 pits. The first pit right here, the second pit right here, a third pit, and an unfinished pit, which might be dug out by now since this book was written 10 years ago. So come join us tomorrow for another streaming of the 70 Wonders of China. Welcome, Alan, and I'm going to have to say have a good lunch and have a good night.